My entitled family copied my condo keys, trashed my place, and tried secretly moving my golden sister in while I was overseas. So I set a trap that got the cops involved and completely destroyed her reputation, career, and golden child crown. Hey Reddit, got a wild one about my family, my sister, and a condo that turned into ground zero for entitlement. Didn't plan it, but it taught me real quick what happens when you finally draw a line they can't cross. So let me just say this. If you ever want to know what family favoritism looks like in 4K quality, you should have come to my house growing up. My parents weren't even slick about it. I was the built-in workhorse, the one who never caused problems. And my sister Jessica was, well, imagine someone who's allergic to effort, but thinks she deserves VIP treatment everywhere she goes. Yeah, that's her. Alex, early 30s now, network engineer. I like systems, I like fixing problems, and I'm damn good at what I do. But before all that, back when I was in college, I had to grind harder than anyone I knew just to keep the lights on. Meanwhile, Jessica, the golden child, was living in what basically looked like a sponsored Instagram ad. She had her tuition paid in full by my parents, brand new furniture in her student apartment, and a little shiny SUV parked outside that she called her baby. You know what my baby was? A rust bucket truck I bought off Craigslist that coughed smoke like it was vaping. I rebuilt half the engine myself in the middle of a Chicago winter. My gloves froze to the damn wrench. Jessica? She was posting beach selfies from Miami on spring break. Trip paid for by mom and dad, of course. It wasn't even subtle. My parents had this whole, well, Alex can handle himself. Jessica just needs a little more help speech they pulled out every time I brought it up. Translation: we're gonna spoil her rotten, and you're gonna shut up about it. The birthdays tell you everything. My 21st landed on a Tuesday. I remember because I'd just pulled a double shift at the warehouse. Got home, dead tired, grabbed a microwavable pizza, and ate it while I was still in my work boots. Parents called me, quick, happy birthday, proud of you, son, and hung up because they were busy. That was it. No cake, no dinner, not even $20 slipped in a card. Jessica's 21st, though? Whole different story. They rented out some rooftop bar downtown. DJ, catered food, balloons, the works. She got pulled out onto the patio at midnight, and bam, brand new red car waiting for her with a giant bow on it like she just won The Price is Right. Everyone cheered. She cried. My parents hugged her like she'd just cured cancer. And me? I was standing in the back of the crowd clapping like an idiot, thinking about the truck I had to jumpstart with a hammer half the time. That was the theme of my life. Her being pampered for doing nothing. Me being praised for independence, while being left to survive on scraps. I can't tell you how many times my dad would look me dead in the eyes and say, "I'm glad you don't need much from us." "You're strong, son." "Yeah, thanks, Dad." Yeah. Really appreciate the emotional support while I'm eating dollar store ramen for the third week straight. By the time I graduated, I was burnt out but sharper than ever. Because surviving that grind teaches you things. You learn discipline, you learn not to complain, and you learn sarcasm is basically free therapy. I used to joke with my buddies, my parents gave me character development instead of rent money. But here's the funny part. That grind is also the reason I ended up being good at my job now. Network engineering is all about finding problems, patching them, making things run smooth. Guess I've been doing that since I was a teenager. Just the system I was fixing was my own damn life. So yeah, that was the backdrop. Years of being the family workhorse while Jessica was handed the princess package. At the time, I thought it was just unfair. Later, I realized it was actually the best training for what was coming. Because once I got out on my own, I wasn't about to let anyone walk over me. See, when you grow up in a house where your birthday is a microwaved pizza, while your sister gets a red bow car reveal, you develop this little switch in your brain. Mine flipped into permanent, prove them wrong mode. And that's exactly what I did. I climbed, I saved, I made moves. And when I finally got the keys to my own place, that was the first time I thought, now they can't touch me. Or at least, that's what I thought. But if you know anything about entitled families, you know it's never that simple. When I finally got my degree and landed a decent job in IT, I made myself a promise. I was going to build something that no one could take from me. That's when I started my Fortress Fund. Nobody knew about it. Not my parents, not Jessica, not even my buddies. I played broke in front of everyone because if my family caught even a whiff of extra cash, they'd try to redistribute it straight into Jessica's lifestyle fund. So I lived lean. I ate bulk rice and chicken, fixed my old truck with parts from junkyards, and learned how to make $20 last all week. Nights and weekends, freelance gigs, small businesses that needed network setups, neighbors with busted routers, random contract jobs that paid in cash. 5 years of that grind, and I was finally staring at enough to put down on a condo. Nothing insane, but solid. 2-bedroom, decent part of the city, hardwood floors that needed sanding but had potential. When I signed the deed and walked in with just a folding chair and a backpack, I swear I felt 10 feet tall. For the first time in my life, I wasn't renting. I wasn't crashing on anyone's couch, and I wasn't living in some shoebox student place. This was mine. The first night, I ate delivery pizza sitting on the floor. Best damn pizza I ever had. I furnished the place slow. Couch from Craigslist, dining table. I refinished myself. A TV I saved up for. Every piece felt like a trophy. I'd sit there at night, look around, and think, no one can touch this. That was my mistake, assuming my family would respect boundaries they never had in the first place. Work was taking off too. I'd moved up from grunt IT guy to handling major projects. My boss pulled me aside one day and hinted about opportunities overseas, London offices that needed steady hands. It wasn't official, but it was the first time I felt like maybe, just maybe, I was breaking free not just financially, but professionally. I told my parents about it. And of course, they managed to turn it into another Jessica pity party. "Oh, that's nice, Alex," Mom said. "But Jessica's been having such a hard time lately. Maybe she'll find her calling soon." Right. Me getting tapped for international work was nice. Jessica bouncing between jobs like a pinball was finding her calling. Dad just grunted and asked if I was going to help Jessica with her rent if she got behind. Classic. And then came the night Jessica showed up at my condo. I was on the couch, feet up, enjoying the rare peace of my own place when I heard a knock. Not the casual neighbor knock. This was aggressive. I opened the door, and there she was, suitcase in each hand, mascara streaked down her face like some bad soap opera actress. "Alex, I need to stay here," she blurted, before I could even say hello. "My roommate kicked me out. She's insane. I didn't even do anything." I leaned against the doorframe, crossed my arms, and looked at her. "If she kicked you out, Jess, trust me, you did something." She glared at me like I'd just betrayed the sisterhood of suffering. "I literally have nowhere else to go." "Correction," I said, pointing toward the street. "You've got Mom and Dad's place. They've got a whole guest room waiting for their princess. Don't drag your drama to my door." She tried again, whining about how it was late, how she couldn't deal with our parents right now, how I was cold for not letting her crash. I shut that down quick. "Jessica, I didn't grind for years to finally have peace, just to turn this place into your backup apartment. Go home." She actually tried to push past me with one of the suitcases. I blocked the door with my arm and shook my head. "Nope, you're not walking in here. If your own roommate can't live with you, that tells me everything I need to know. Take it up with Mom and Dad. They love bailing you out." Her face twisted into that mix of rage and fake heartbreak she always used when she didn't get her way. "You're unbelievable. You think you're so much better than everyone just because you have a condo." I couldn't help but laugh. "No, Jessica. I just think I'm better at paying my own bills." She stomped off dragging her luggage, muttering something about how I was going to regret this. I shut the door and locked it. For about 2 minutes, I felt bad. Then I looked around at my spotless living room and realized I'd made the right call. I didn't bust my ass for 5 years just to let her trash my place, like she did her own. But here's the thing. I'd already made one slip. When I bought the condo, I gave Mom a spare key for emergencies. At the time, it felt responsible, like something adults do. Standing in my living room that night, listening to Jessica's suitcase wheels clattering down the hall, I realized that key might come back to bite me. My family's idea of an emergency wasn't exactly the same as mine. At the time, I brushed it off. I figured as long as I set boundaries, they'd respect them. Spoiler, they didn't. That key was basically an open invitation, and I was about to find out exactly how entitled they could get when they thought they had access to my fortress. At first, Jessica didn't even bother sneaking around. She just called me up or texted when she wanted something. "Hey, can I borrow your drill? My shelf is loose. Do you still have those extra headphones? Mine broke. Could I use that old laptop of yours until I figure out my work situation?" Every time she said borrow, I knew exactly what it meant. Say goodbye to it forever. That drill set? Gone. Those backup headphones? Never saw them again. My old laptop? Disappeared into the same black hole as her work ethic. It wasn't even the stuff itself that pissed me off. It was the attitude. Like my things were just an extension of the family supply closet. But the real problem hit one weekend when I had to travel for work. My boss sent me to Denver for a client install. Nothing glamorous. but it paid well and got me out of town for a few days. I came back late Sunday, exhausted, rolling my bag into the condo. I unlocked the door and immediately knew something was wrong. The place smelled off, not just dust or stale air, like smoke and soda mixed together. I flipped the lights on and nearly dropped my bag. Cushions scattered on the floor like somebody had been wrestling. Sticky rings of soda on my coffee table. A half-empty 2-liter bottle lying sideways. My mechanical keyboard, my custom one I'd spent months modding, was sitting there with dried soda gumming up the keys. I tapped the spacebar and it stuck halfway down. My monitor? Scratched across the surface like someone dragged a bracelet over it. And when I went to grab a screwdriver from my tool drawer, ashes. Actual ashes. Someone had stubbed a cigarette in there. I didn't need Sherlock Holmes to figure this out. Jessica had been here. She had my mom's key, she had zero respect for boundaries, and she saw my empty condo as a free Airbnb. I texted her right then. "You have a party in my place?" Her reply, "LOL, calm down. We just hung out. No big deal." No big deal? My keyboard was fried, my monitor scratched, and my tools smelled like an ashtray. I stood there in silence, chest tight, hands shaking. The audacity wasn't even shocking. It was expected. That's what made it sting more. I started cleaning, wiping sticky soda off the table, putting cushions back, tossing the empty bottles. While I was scrubbing, I noticed my project binder on the desk wasn't where I'd left it. I flipped it open, and my stomach dropped. One of the pages, the ones with client network diagrams, had a faint red smudge on the corner. Lipstick. I flipped more pages. The order was wrong, like someone had been thumbing through them without knowing what they were looking at. I turned to my laptop, opened it up, and sure enough, it was logged into my work files. Tabs open, configs sitting on the screen, things I hadn't opened before leaving. Jessica hadn't just trashed my living room, she'd been snooping through my confidential work. That wasn't just disrespectful, that could have gotten me fired if anything leaked. That was the final straw. No more warnings, no more sarcastic texts. I slammed the binder shut, threw it in my bag, and grabbed my keys. If I didn't deal with this now, it was only going to get worse. I drove straight to my parents' house, stormed into the living room, and dropped the binder on their coffee table. The sound made my mom flinch. Jessica was already there, curled on the couch with puffy eyes like she'd been practicing her innocent victim face. "This ends tonight," I said flatly. Mom blinked. "Alex, what's going on?" I leaned over the table. Jessica used my condo while I was gone. Trashed it. Went through my work. I want my emergency key back. Now. Dad's face hardened immediately. "Alex, calm down. Don't make a scene." I laughed, bitter and loud. Make a scene? My living room looks like a frat house, my keyboard is toast, and my confidential client work has her lipstick on it. This isn't a scene. This is me laying down a line. Mom jumped in, voice syrupy. "Honey, please, you're overreacting. Family shares? It's Jessica's home too, in a way." I stared at her like she'd just told me the earth was flat. Her home? Did she pay a cent for it? Did she sign the deed? Number. It's mine. You gave her access to my life, and she stomped all over it. Jessica sniffled, squeezing fake tears out. "I just wanted to feel closer to you, Alex. You're always so distant. Why can't you just support me for once?" I snapped back. "Support you? You've had support your whole life. You don't borrow. You take. You don't respect anything. And you think everyone else is supposed to clean up after you. I'm done." That's when Dad leaned forward, his go-to lecture face on. "Alex, you're the man of this family. It's your duty to take care of your sister. You've always been strong. She needs you." I shook my head, laughing at the absurdity. "No, Dad. I'm not the family's safety net. I'm not a free upgrade for Jessica's life. I'm your son, not her provider. If you want her taken care of, you do it. Don't shove that burden on me." The room went tense. Jessica cried harder. Mom wrung her hands. Dad glared. I didn't care. "The key," I said, low and sharp. "Now, or I'm changing the locks tomorrow and sending you the bill." For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Mom sighed, stood up, and walked into the kitchen. She came back with the spare key in her palm, trembling like I was forcing her to hand over a family heirloom. "Here," she whispered. "But you're making a mistake." I snatched it, pocketed it, and stood tall. "No, I'm fixing one." Without another word, I turned and walked out. Jessica's fake sobs followed me to the door, Dad muttering under his breath, Mom clutching her chest like I'd stabbed her. Driving back to my condo, I gripped the steering wheel tight. Relief settled in. Finally, the drawbridge was up. The fortress was secure again, or so I thought. When I walked inside, I sat down at my desk and stared at the mess of sticky notes and project binders that Jessica had rummaged through the night she trashed my place. The lipstick smudge was still there, like some weird graffiti tag she'd left behind. The key was back in my pocket, yeah, but I knew my mom. Handing it over that night wasn't her waving the white flag. It was her giving me just enough rope, hoping I'd relax, while they cooked up the next entitled stunt. I called the only person in the family who wasn't allergic to common sense, Uncle Mark. He picked up on the second ring, voice dripping with sarcasm like always. Well, well, well. If it isn't my favorite nephew. What's wrong? Mom treating your condo like a community center again? I didn't even bother denying it. I laid it all out. Jessica's party, the trashed setup, the lipstick, the copied key. By the time I finished, Mark was laughing. Not because it was funny, but because he'd been predicting this exact circus for years. Alex, you're playing checkers with people who think they're playing chess. They don't respect boundaries. They respect leverage. Burn the game board. That was his phrase. Burn the board. He said it like it was the simplest thing in the world. I leaned back in my chair, annoyed. Yeah, easy for you to say. What do you want me to do? Sell the condo and live under a bridge? Mark snorted. Not sell. Outsmart. You want to keep your fortress? Fine. But make it a fortress even they can't breach. You've got that London trip coming up, don't you? That made me pause. My company had just dropped a big opportunity in my lap, a 3-week assignment in London for a new client. It was supposed to be all work, but I knew the timing wasn't random. If I left my condo empty, Jessica and my parents would sniff that out like blood in the water. I pictured them showing up with her suitcases again, convinced she was moving in temporarily. I groaned. Yeah, they already know I'll be gone. Mark chuckled. Perfect. Then we'll give them enough rope to hang themselves. You sign a short-term lease under a shell company. I'll find you a tenant who doesn't blink at calling the cops the second somebody tries the lock. Rachel can set up the paperwork so it's airtight. That way, if Jessica or your mom pull their key stunt again, it won't be you yelling at them. It'll be the law. Rachel was my lawyer friend from college, sharp as a razor and just as loyal as Mark. If the two of them were tag teaming this, I knew it would be bulletproof. The more Mark explained, the more it clicked. He wasn't just protecting me, he was setting a trap. Let them try it again, let them walk right into legal trouble. For the first time in days, I actually laughed. So you want me to bait them? Mark smirked through the phone. You don't even have to bait them. Just leave the cheese out. They're dumb enough to walk into the mousetrap on their own. That night, I sat down with Rachel at her office downtown. She drafted a short-term lease under a shell company. The tenant Mark found was a grad student. Quiet, kept to himself, and more importantly, he knew the deal. If anyone tried the door, he was to treat it like a break-in. No hesitation. Call the police. Meanwhile, I started moving my valuables. I didn't trust Jessica not to smash something just for fun if she ever got inside again. My high-end tools, monitors, even some binders. I boxed them up and shifted them to a storage unit under my LLC that Rachel set up. Every trip felt like a covert operation. I'd load my trunk at night, drive across town, unload quietly. Nobody could know. The funny part? My parents thought I was just working late. Mom even texted me, "Don't overwork yourself, sweetie." Jessica was saying maybe she'll stay at your place when you go to London, so you don't have to worry. I almost laughed out loud in the middle of the storage unit. She really said that, like, it was the most natural thing in the world. Jessica squats at my place, I don't have to worry. The mental gymnastics was Olympic level. By the time my flight was a few days away, everything was in motion. Tenant was ready to move in, paperwork airtight, storage unit stacked, and I was walking around my condo with this weird sense of satisfaction. Yeah, it was temporary, but it was also the first time I felt like I was actually 2 steps ahead instead of scrambling to defend myself. On the morning I left, I did one last sweep through the condo. The air smelled clean, furniture minimal since most of my stuff was locked away. It didn't feel like my fortress at that moment. It felt like a trap disguised as an apartment, and I couldn't wait for them to step into it. At the airport, waiting for boarding, I shot Mark a text. Drawbridge up, bait set. He replied instantly, "Can't wait to see the look on your dad's face when the cops treat him like a trespasser. Don't worry, I'll keep you updated. Enjoy London." I grinned at my phone, already picturing it. For once, the game wasn't theirs. It was mine. London had me busy right away. Still, even while I was knee-deep in work, the thought kept looping in my head. If they try anything, they're not walking into my condo. They're walking into a trap. Sure enough, day 2 into the trip, Jessica decided to be herself. I'm sitting in a conference room in London, half awake, when my phone buzzes. I open it, And there it is, a close-up photo of a shiny copied key resting in her hand. She must have duplicated Mom's key before I took it back. The caption said, "Don't worry, big bro, I'll take care of your little condo." I actually laughed out loud. The guy across the table thought I lost it. I showed no one, but inside, I was dying. They couldn't help themselves. Jessica basically texted me evidence of her next crime. Like, "Thanks for documenting it, genius." I screenshotted it and sent it straight to Rachel and Uncle Mark. His response was exactly what I expected. They always confess first. Rachel's was colder. Good. Now we'll have proof when we file trespass. Fast forward a few hours. It's early morning back home when my building manager shoots me a text. He says 2 women, one younger, one older, showed up with luggage. I didn't even need names. That was Jessica and my mom, no doubt. Apparently, they were insisting they were supposed to move in. And then my tenant messaged the group chat Rachel had set up for emergencies. He said they were trying a copied key in the lock, but he had the swing bar latched, so even if it turned, they weren't getting in. He didn't open. Instead, he told them flat out he was the lawful occupant on the lease and was calling the cops. That's when I stepped out of the meeting and leaned against a glass wall like I was watching a movie unfold in real time. My tenant had the whole thing on video. Jessica jamming the key, Mom whispering coaching lines like she's a safecracker. You could practically smell the entitlement through the clip. The tenant did exactly what we told him, called the cops, handed over the lease paperwork Rachel had prepared, and kept recording. Within minutes, security showed up, followed by 2 officers. From what I was told, Mom tried her polite but smug routine. She kept saying, "We're family. This is my son's place." The officer shut that down real quick. "Doesn't matter, ma'am. You're not a resident here. You can't enter." Jessica went full victim mode, pointing at the door, saying I wanted her there, that she had nowhere else to go. Meanwhile, she's literally standing there with a copied key in her hand. The tenant didn't flinch, just told them to take it up with my lawyer, then slid Rachel's business card under the door like a mic drop. And here's the kicker. Neighbors started poking their heads out. You live in a high-rise, everyone knows everyone's drama. People were watching Jessica argue with cops while dragging her suitcase like she'd been evicted. My mom tried to save face, but you can't talk your way out of a cop explaining trespass law in front of half the floor. By the time it was done, the officers warned them both about criminal trespass, and security logged the whole incident. The tenant sent me another clip, this one of my mom muttering about misunderstandings while Jessica sulked in the hallway. The door shut. Scene over. I sat there in London with my phone buzzing nonstop from missed calls. First it was my dad, angry texts demanding I call him. Then Jessica calling me a monster and accusing me of setting her up. Mom tried guilt, saying it was all a misunderstanding. I ignored them all. Instead, I signed Rachel's paperwork digitally to move forward with the official trespass complaint. It felt different this time. Usually I'd be heated, ready to argue back. But instead I was calm. They had played themselves. I didn't yell, didn't beg, didn't explain. They tried to let themselves in with a copied key, and the law did the yelling for me. Uncle Mark, of course, couldn't resist. He texted me later that day. "Building security told your mom good people don't copy keys." I nearly spit out my coffee. That line made my entire week. When the dust settled, I went back to work like nothing happened. Walked around London in the evening, grabbed some food, and let the city noise drown everything else out. For once, I wasn't the guy cleaning up the mess. I wasn't patching it over to keep the peace. I was just watching them crash into the walls I'd finally built. And trust me, that was better than any argument I could have ever won. The next morning in London, Rachel emailed me the digital forms. The police report for criminal trespass was ready, and the complaint was waiting. I signed it. I clicked my name onto the dotted line, and that was it. Jessica and my parents weren't just annoying anymore. They were officially trespassers. Uncle Mark called right after. "Finally, kid! You've stopped playing their family board game and moved into real life. Paperwork doesn't care about crocodile tears." He wasn't wrong, and I knew my parents were about to prove him right. Sure enough, my phone lit up with their names over and over. I ignored the first few, but curiosity got me on the 5th call. Dad's voice came through hot. "You've humiliated us, Alex. Do you even realize what you've done? You had police at the door. Neighbors saw everything. Our family name is dirt now, because of you." I kept quiet for a second, just letting him dig his own hole. He kept going. "You don't call the cops on your own blood. You handle things like a man, privately. But no, you wanted to make a scene." When he finally stopped, I just said, "Dad, she copied my key and tried to break in. That's not family business. That's trespassing." He scoffed so hard I could hear it through the phone. "Trespassing? She's your sister. If she has a key, it's because this is her home too. I laughed. Couldn't help it. Her home? She doesn't pay a dime for it. This isn't a family cabin. It's my condo. That's when Mom jumped in. She must have been on speaker. Her voice was sharp, all fake sweetness gone. You trapped her, Alex. You made her look like a criminal on purpose. What kind of brother does that? She was only trying to keep your place safe while you were gone, and you turned it into a police matter. Do you have any idea how cruel that is? I almost dropped the phone. Safe? She texted me a picture of the copied key like it was a trophy. That's not keeping it safe. That's bragging about breaking in. Mom ignored it, like she always does when the facts don't fit her version. You've embarrassed me in front of the neighbors. Do you know how humiliating it is to have police treat me like some stranger? All because you can't handle things like family. Jessica's voice cut in then. She must have grabbed the phone. Her tone was pure venom. You set me up, Alex. You wanted this. You left that guy in your condo to make me look bad. You knew I'd check on the place, and you turned it into some trap. I shook my head, pacing around my hotel room. No, Jess, you weren't checking on the place. You rolled up with suitcases. You were moving in. She snapped back instantly. Because I thought you needed me. You're never home. I was trying to help, and now you've ruined my life. I almost laughed again, but I held it. Jess, you ruined your own life. All I did was sign paperwork. Click. The call ended. They hung up on me. I thought that was the peak, but no. The fallout was just warming up. By the end of the week, gossip had spread across the family like wildfire. A cousin texted me. Dude, I heard Jessica tried to break into your place. What the hell? Another wrote, respect, man. Took guts to stand up to them. And the same aunts who used to call Jessica the sweet one weren't defending her anymore. Relatives stopped inviting her places. She was the punchline now, the spoiled sister who got the cops called on her. Even worse for her, neighbors were talking. High-rise hallways are basically echo chambers. Everyone saw her suitcase, saw the cops, saw my mom arguing. The building had receipts, and people love a good story. Jessica couldn't spin her way out of that. Then came the real hit, her job. Jessica had been clinging to some admin position she bragged about online, posting like she was climbing the corporate ladder. But apparently her boss heard about the police report, probably through the same gossip train, and didn't want the company associated with her drama. Uncle Mark texted me the news before Jessica even did. Congrats, she's unemployed. Turns out companies don't love employees famous for breaking into condos. Not long after, Jessica herself messaged me. It wasn't an apology. It was fury. This is your fault. You ruined my reputation, Alex. You cost me my job. I can't show my face anywhere now. You destroyed me. I typed back, no, Jess. You destroyed yourself. I just stopped cleaning up after you. Silence after that. Meanwhile, Mom doubled down. She sent another rant, accusing me of letting outsiders like Uncle Mark and Rachel poison me against my own family. According to her, I was manipulated into turning on Jessica. Not once did she admit Jessica copied a key. Not once did she admit they tried to force their way into my condo. They weren't sorry. They weren't even embarrassed about the break-in. They were just mad I hadn't buried it for them. But here's the thing. I didn't need them to admit it. The police report was filed. Jessica's reputation was tanked. She was already on thin ice at work, and the police report pushed her out. And for the first time, I wasn't the one scrambling to patch things up. I sat in my London hotel room that night, looking out over the city, and felt calm. They wanted me to feel guilt, to back down, to make it all disappear. Not happening. For once, the law and reality were doing the work I'd been begging them to do for years. And honestly, watching them choke on their own entitlement tasted better than any family dinner peace talk ever could. When I flew back from London, the city felt different. Not because it had changed, because I had. My condo wasn't just four walls anymore. It was proof that I could finally stand my ground, and no amount of whining or family guilt trips could pry me off it. The tenant's short lease ended right as I got back. Place spotless, key returned to Rachel. My fortress was mine again. It didn't take long for the circus to show up. 3 days after I was home, my phone lit up with a FaceTime call from my mom. Normally, I'd hit decline, but I was curious. I answered. There they were, Mom, Dad, and Jessica, crammed together at the kitchen table like they were staging a hostage video. Mom leaned in first, fake warmth dialed up to 11. Alex, sweetheart, she started, her voice trembling just enough to seem rehearsed. We've been talking and we feel like maybe things got a little out of hand. It's time to put this behind us, don't you think? I stayed quiet, let her dig. Dad jumped in next, tone sharp but trying to sound reasonable. You've made your point. You wanted boundaries, fine. But filing a police report? That's too far? You're hurting your own blood. Family doesn't do that. Jessica sat back, arms crossed, face red like she'd been crying. When she finally spoke, it was bitter and shaky. You ruined my life, Alex. I lost my job because of this. Everyone thinks I'm some criminal. Do you even care? I was your sister. I smirked at the screen. Was? You planning on resigning the position? She glared, eyes wet, but didn't answer. Mom tried again, her voice climbing higher. Please, Alex. Just withdraw the complaint. We'll forget all of this happened. It doesn't have to go any further. That's when I laughed. Not mocking, just sharp enough to cut. Forget it happened? You mean after you copied my key, trashed my place, and tried to move Jessica in while I was overseas? That's not something you sweep under a rug. That's criminal trespass. And guess what? I already filed the report. Dad's jaw tightened. So that's it? You'd rather see your sister dragged through court than protect your own family? I leaned back in my chair, arms folded. Protecting my family is exactly why I filed it. Protecting myself from my family. You've treated my place like it's a free Airbnb since I bought it. Now there's a paper trail that says, not anymore. Jessica slammed her hand on the table. You're pathetic. All this just to feel powerful? You've turned into some cold, heartless... I cut her off. No, Jess. I turned into a guy who got tired of being your doormat. Big difference. The silence after that was thick. Mom's eyes darted back and forth, like she was looking for the right script and had lost the page. Dad rubbed his forehead, muttering something about pride and stubbornness. Finally, Mom tried one last angle. If your grandmother were alive, she'd be ashamed of you for turning your back on your sister. I stared at her through the screen. If she were alive, she'd be ashamed of you for raising a daughter who thinks stealing a key and breaking into someone's home is fine, as long as she cries about it after. That landed. Mom's face went pale. Dad looked away. Jessica's mouth opened, but no sound came out. I ended the call without saying another word. Uncle Mark called me later that night, already grinning through the phone. Let me guess. They tried the guilt angle? Begging and guilt, I said. Like clockwork. He laughed. And you didn't budge. That's my boy. Welcome to the other side of freedom. And he was right. For the first time in years, I wasn't drowning in their chaos. I was standing on solid ground, my own ground, watching them scramble for once. Jessica's reputation was gone, her job was gone, and her golden child safety net had ripped wide open. My parents couldn't spin it or cover it up. And me? I was finally untouchable. The fortress was mine, and so was my peace. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube this video deserves to blow up, and it keeps even crazier stories coming your way.